Hello, my friends. Welcome back to our little corner of warm stories. This is my own take on these characters and what might happen next, built from the heart, not from the original ending. So sit back, pour yourself some tea, and let me tell you a story. You know what's beautiful about love? It shows up most when life gets hard. Not in the easy days, in the hard ones. When someone is sick, when money is short, when the world feels heavy. That's when love rolls up its sleeves and gets to work. Let me introduce you to this family. James is a man who carried too much. He built a business, he chased success, and somewhere along the way the pressure made him sick. High fever, tired body, a heart heavy with debt. And his old father sits beside him full of guilt, whispering, "I'm sorry, son. Because of me, you've suffered so much." But James is not alone. He has Diep, his wife, the quiet hero of this whole story. He has little Nye, who runs home from school just to check on her dad. And he has Uncle, steady and kind, always ready to help. This is not a story about one man falling. It's a story about a family rising. What I love about Diep is her quiet strength. She never raises her voice. She never complains. She just cooks the porridge, buys the medicine, and loves with her whole heart. Some heroes wear capes. This one wears an apron and carries 2 pineapples home for 10,000 each. Let me show you how it starts. That morning, the house was quiet. James lay burning with fever, and Diep stood at the market counting coins. 2 pineapples, 10,000 each. She picked the cheapest ones, the green ones, because every bit of money mattered now. But she still bought them. Why? Because James loved sweet things, and a sick man needs something sweet to remember life is still good. She walked home with the fruit in one hand and medicine in the other. And here's the thing. She wasn't tired of caring. She was afraid of losing. Those are different things. One drains you, the other drives you. At home, she boiled the porridge. She stirred it slow and steady. Then she carried it in and said softly, "Get up and eat some porridge. I just finished cooking it." James stirred, surprised. "You cooked porridge?" And she smiled, because of course she did. She would cook 100 bowls if it brought him back. But here's what nobody saw coming. James wasn't only fighting the fever, he was fighting his own pride. "I can eat it myself," he kept saying. "I have work to do." A sick man, trying to stand, trying to provide, even from his bed. And that's the heartbreak hiding in this house, not the illness. The stubborn love of a man who refuses to be a burden. Let me ask you something. Have you ever loved someone so much you couldn't let them help you? That was James. And gently, patiently, his family was teaching him how to receive. Little Nee came home from school with bright eyes. "Was I good at school today?" she asked. And the whole house softened. Even sickness can't dim a child's joy. Uncle took her to bathe, the way family fills every gap without being asked. One person cooks. One person bathes the child. One person buys medicine. This is how a family carries a heavy thing. Together. By evening, the little house glowed with one quiet mission. Get James well. Grandpa rested, Nye played. Diep moved from kitchen to bedroom and back, never stopping, never sighing. And slowly, you could feel it. The warmth was working its way in. But that's just the beginning, because the real test wasn't the porridge or the medicine. It was whether this family could pull James out of the dark place in his own mind. And what happened at dinner that night surprised everyone. Last we left off, the little house was glowing with one mission. Get James well. Diep cooking, Nye playing, Uncle helping, Grandpa resting. But James was still fighting his fever and worse, fighting his own pride. Now, let me tell you what happened at dinner. Diep carried a bowl of rice into the bedroom. "James, wake up and eat. I've cooked rice. You need to eat so you can take your medicine." She helped him sit up, slow and careful, because he was still so weak. And then James said something that changed the whole evening. "Can you help me outside? I want to have dinner with the whole family." Did you catch that? The man who wanted to eat alone, the man who said, "I have work to do," now wanted to sit at the table with everyone. That's not a small thing. That's everything. That's a heart turning back toward the people who love it. So they helped him up, step by careful step, and the family gathered. Grandpa at the head, little Nye bouncing in her seat, Uncle passing the rice. And James, pale but present, finally home in the truest sense. Here's what touches me about this. James didn't get better because of medicine alone. He got better because he stopped trying to suffer in silence. The moment he asked to join the table, the healing really began. Love can't reach a heart that's locked. But James finally opened the door. The dinner was simple. Stir-fried vegetables, white rice, nothing fancy. But Nee looked up with shining eyes and said, "The food is so delicious, Mom." And in that moment, that little house had everything that matters in this world. Let me sit with this for a second. There's a kind of beauty that only shows up at a family table. It's not in the food, it's in the gathering. James looked around and saw his old father, who had blamed himself for so much. He saw his daughter, who ran home every day just to check on him. He saw his wife, who counted coins for cheap pineapples but spent her whole heart without counting. And something inside him cracked open, not from pain, from gratitude. He ate only a little. His appetite was weak. Diep watched him and worried. "You've only eaten one bite," she said softly. "Eat a few more. Listen to me." And he did. Not because he was hungry, because she asked. Because letting her love him was its own kind of medicine. Nye turned to her grandfather and whispered, "Dad is sick like this. I'm so sad." And Grandpa, who carried such guilt, gently answered, "Dad is getting better soon." 3 generations at one table, holding each other up. That's the picture I want you to keep. And then something beautiful happened. James reached for his medicine without being told. The stubborn man who pushed everyone away now took the pill on his own because he finally wanted to get well. Not for the business, not for the debt, for them. Diep noticed. She didn't say a word. She just smiled the smallest smile. The kind you smile when hope sneaks quietly back into the room. After dinner, she settled him back to rest. "After you finish, you must take your medicine. You'll feel better tomorrow." And for the first time in days, James believed her. But the night wasn't over, because the deepest moment of all was still coming. The moment when James would finally say the thing he'd been holding inside. The house grew quiet as night settled in. Nye was tucked away to sleep. Grandpa rested in his chair. And Diep sat beside James, pressing a cool cloth to his forehead, still warm with fever, but cooler than before. You could feel something shifting. The worst of the fever was breaking. Slowly, hour by hour. Hope was rising in that little room like morning light under a door. James watched her work, the woman who never stopped, and he said something soft. "I'm bothering you too much." And Diep, without missing a beat, answered the way only true love answers. "It's no bother. You should rest when you're sick like this. I don't want to see you sick like this. Every time I see you tired, I feel so sad." Let me ask you something. Do you know how rare that is? To have someone whose sadness is tied to your pain, whose heart aches when yours does. That's not just marriage. That's 2 lives woven into one. And here came the moment everything had been building toward. James looked at her, his eyes clearer now, and the pride finally fell away. All the guilt about the debt, all the shame about being sick, all the weight he'd carried alone, he set it down. Being a little sick like this is nothing, he managed. But Diep understood what he really meant. He meant thank you. He meant I see you. He meant I won't shut you out again. She squeezed his hand. Next time you go to work, remember to be careful. Don't get sick like this again. Just rest so you get better quickly. A gentle scolding wrapped in pure love, the kind only a wife can give. And James smiled. A real smile. The first in days. In that small room, with cheap pineapples on the table and medicine by the bed, this family had found the thing that money could never buy. They had found each other. The debt was still there. The hard days weren't over, but the fever was breaking, and so was the wall around James's heart. By morning, the signs were good. His skin was cooler. His eyes were brighter. "I'll probably be better tomorrow," he had said earlier. And now it looked true. The porridge, the medicine, the cheap sweet pineapples, the dinner at the family table, all of it had worked. But the real medicine was love. It always is. This is the part that gives me hope. A family with almost no money still had more than enough because they had each other. They didn't fix everything in one night, but they fixed the most important thing. They came together. And when a family comes together, no fever, no debt, no dark season can keep them down for long. So James is getting better. The table is full again. Nye is smiling, Grandpa's guilt is softening, and Diep can finally breathe. But here's what I keep wondering. The fever may be passing, but the debt that started all this is still waiting. And the most beautiful moment is still ahead. The moment when this family decides to face that mountain together, the same way they faced this one. What I think comes next will warm your heart.